From attic to basement, we're here for you. It's quality service in all we do. Call Taylor. 500 help.
It's Taylor Heating and Plumbing. Taylor 500 help is the number to call. And did you know that if your furnace or your water heater blows up in the middle of the night, you can call Taylor? They're open 24/7 to service your needs. That's what I love. Tailor-made service, customized to fit your needs. Air conditioning, heating, plumbing, home energy, comprehensive maintenance plans, and they do financing. So if your furnace goes out or your water heater goes out and you're wondering how you're going to come up with the money, well, you work with Taylor. They put together a financing plan and boom, everything is taken care of. That's what I love about Taylor Heating and Plumbing. And if you're looking for a job, Taylor can help you out in that realm as well. Current opportunities, HVAC techs, plumbers, project managers, office personnel. It is Taylor Heating and Plumbing, Taylor 500 help. Precision Lawn and Garden, it's up there on North Avenue in Webster. Kimberly and Justin are my friends. They have the business there. They will help you out. Precision Lawn and Garden, been servicing Rochester surrounding areas with professional sales, service, and parts since 1969. If you need a snowblower, they got it. You need a chainsaw, they got it. Lawnmowers, all the brands that you love, Toro, Kawasaki engines, Cub Cadet, Aaron's, Precision Lawn and Garden. Go see my friends Kimberly and Justin, and they will take care of you. Express Sealer, 645-2010. They seal driveways in the summertime. They plow driveways in the wintertime. That's what they do. Brian does it well. Make sure you get on the list for summertime driveway sealing. It's that time of year. 645-2010. Please support our advertisers. They support us here at Kimberly's Revolution and the We the People Podcast Network.
We ready?
Yeah.
Live from the We the People broadcast studio in cloudy 41-degree Irondequoit, New York. They may not be a real couple, but they play one on a podcast. Here they are. It's
Hello.
Kimberly and Chad.
Yeah, and just Tom. It's Kimberly's Revolution. Hey, how is everyone doing today? It is Wednesday, and it is a beautiful day in Rochester. It is a beautiful day across the country. We are glad that you could join us on another episode of Kimberly's Revolution on the We the People Podcast Network, where you can go to wethepeoplepodcastnetwork.com, get a t-shirt. We had them here yesterday. Oh, you got them right there. Yeah, they're beautiful. Just Tom sitting across from us. Beautiful. It's a beautiful t-shirt. You can order one. You can have one.
Can I wear that with a tie?
For you absolutely can. You would look amazing.
I'd rock a tie on that thing.
You could. Of course, Chad Hummel sitting across from me. He is the attorney. We call him a lawyer.
A lawyer.
He's a lawyer. He's a podcaster. And he's also the owner of the brokerage firm that we work with here at Revere Realty. I, of course, am a podcaster and a real estate agent. And Tom, and we don't know what Tom is.
Just Tom.
We just don't know what Tom is. He's an appraiser. He's a real estate agent. He's not.
Hello.
He's been fired from disseminating news, though.
Yes.
We had a tough time putting together the show topics today, didn't we?
I am not a newsman.
No, I didn't have any problem at all. But he texts me this,
Pardon me for trying to work.
It's like explosive text. And I'm like, what? Are you sure?
That happened 2 years ago. And it didn't even happen.
And then I'm like, okay, don't pay any attention to Tom. Never mind. And of course, Austin, our producer, is here running things.
Hello.
Making sure that we have everything going on. So we've got a lot of things to get to today. The name of the show is I Am a Woman.
What?
Hear me roar.
That's a great song.
I thought it was I Am Not a Biologist.
I am woman.
No.
And I know what one is too, because I are one.
It was supposed to be I am not a biologist.
I am
it's not
woman.
Catchy, Chad.
And all you have to do is ask me, because I can tell you I've got a uterus and I've got a vagina and I was born with those things. So therefore I do. I have a uterus
Tom
and a
only
vagina.
has one of those.
I only have one.
It's a sobbing mangina. So I know what I am. But apparently the Supreme Court nominee, even though she is educated at Harvard, cannot define what a woman is.
It's not even funny either, really.
It's
actually mind-boggling.
It's sad to you.
It's beyond sad. It's insane.
I know.
Right? We always joke around about what other countries must be thinking when they see Joe Biden talk, for example.
Yeah.
Or when they hear Kamala Harris and so on and so forth. Here is a woman who's going to be.
Is she a woman?
Yeah, good point.
I mean, in her definition, we don't know what the definition is.
That's a great point. It's not that we don't, right? You just acknowledged and established that you and I know, and Tom even might know, but
Tom doesn't know.
Austin certainly knows. So
Austin, you know?
I wish I knew.
But she doesn't know. The Supreme Court justice doesn't know.
No.
She acknowledged that today.
Yes.
So I don't know.
Harvard educated.
How many Supreme
Clerked
Court
under one of the Supreme Court justices that passed away.
I thought that's why Joe Biden picked her, is because she's a woman.
Yes.
Exactly.
A woman of color.
That would have
right?
been a great follow-up question by the senator who asked the question. And we're going to play
Blackburn.
And we're going to play that video clip, right?
What's the question?
It would have been a great follow-up question.
Yeah.
Isn't the reason why you were picked is because you were a woman? Isn't that why you're sitting in front of me right now?
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not a biologist.
The Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn, who is from Tennessee, I believe, the Republican out of Tennessee, had an interesting dialogue. If you've not heard it, it's
disturbing
it's
dialogue.
disturbing. You want to laugh. I mean, because I kind of laughed, but I mean, she's serious.
Dead serious.
And I don't know about anyone else or what your definition of a woman is, but my definition is of a woman that's an adult female who was at birth born or with a vagina and breasts and a uterus, that the breasts developed during puberty. And as a woman,
are we back in 10th grade, Chad?
you got your period.
I guess now 3rd grade.
That's and they have the X chromosome.
Would that have been your answer today?
That would have been my answer today.
Kimberly,
yes,
are the next Supreme Court justice nominee.
I knew I had it in
to
me.
the United States of America.
Because at least I know that much, right?
My answer would have been, I don't know what a woman is, but you just do what they tell you.
That's so true.
Right.
That is so true. Let's listen to a portion of the proceedings where where they're questioning the Supreme Court nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, over basic issues. KBJ, over basic issues that are probably going to come before the court time and time again, right? Just like abortion. It's what's a female, what is a male, and so she's asked that. Let's listen.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah,
I can't.
you can.
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the meaning
biologist.
of the word
What
woman is so
context?
unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide. So I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something
Straight.
as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about. Just last week, an entire generation of young girls watched as our taxpayer-funded institutions permitted a biological man to compete and beat a biological woman in the NCAA swimming championships. What message do you think this sends to girls who aspire to compete and win
She doesn't know what a
in
girl is.
sports at the highest levels?
Is that a
Senator,
question?
I'm not sure what message that sends. If you're asking me about the legal issues related to it, those are topics that are being hotly discussed, as you say, and
Right.
could come to the court.
That's why she asked the question.
Exactly.
That is why
Nice dodge.
that is why the Republican senator, Ms. Blackburn, asked you the question, because she wants to know your opinion of what a woman is, and she could not answer that question.
Well, she's
She
obviously a
wouldn't.
racist, right?
She wouldn't answer the question. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't a dodge. I think she did answer the question. She said, not in this context. What context is there to define a man and a woman, right? There's black and there's white.
Right.
There's no different context within to define something that's so fundamental, as
Yes.
as Blackburn
Yeah.
said.
You know, little boys are born with a penis. If you are born with a penis, you are a guy, right? You're a man. You're a boy.
Yeah.
You are of the male sex. Yes.
Yeah, correct. But
there's
so
not
she
really- I don't
did.
know.
She did, and this isn't. I don't think this is semantics. She did answer the question. She basically said that it depends on the context. In other words, there is no such thing as a woman per se or a man per se. There's no black per se, and there's no white per se. There's no truth, and there's nothing, and there's no false. There is. Well, it depends. It depends on the context. It depends. If you identify on Tuesday when the NCAA championships are being played that you're a woman, then if that's the context, I'll answer the question. But if on Saturday you're at the bar and you want to take home a woman, now you're a man.
I got it.
You know, it's
right.
So
I also
it's sickening.
I
It's
also
quite
identify
sickening.
It
and
is
disturbing.
sickening. And a woman is also the species that can reproduce.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Go
with you.
find her slippers, Chad.
Are you serious? I'm telling your wife on you.
She's a great cook.
Is she? As I'm sure you are as well.
I'm a good cook too.
Yeah. So
in certain contexts.
So that is, it's kind of reminds me of who was the last guy that got nominated to the Supreme Court, and they went all over his yearbook, and he supposedly Brett Kavanaugh, and he got drunk at high. Honestly, they grilled him more on what he had on his high school calendar, than they're grilling her about the issues that they need to bring up, right?
Well, Brett Kavanaugh probably knew what a woman was.
They didn't ask him that. I'm sure he could have replied something more than, I don't know. I'm not a biologist. So I guess, is she admitting that it's biological and it's not something,
point.
that people come up with in their head that today I'm not a female. I'm going to identify as whatever pronoun you are.
It's a great point.
Today, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, if Marsha Blackburn had brought in a cat and a dog and had set them up on the table and had asked her which one's the cat and which one's the dog, would she say, I don't know, I'm not a veterinarian? I mean, do I have to be a
analogy?
Do I have to be a scientist to know what my eyes see, to use rational thought? Because I've been on this planet for almost 48 years and I've learned things that I don't need a scientific lab coat on to come to a conclusion on.
Sometimes you can't tell by looking at females now whether they're a real woman or not. I don't know. Have you seen TikTok?
I don't have that. It's
you would be amazed.
Chinese Russian disinformation.
What they can do with wigs and makeup. Wigs
like this podcast.
Wigs and makeup. I mean,
are you a woman?
So I don't have that. I don't have that expertise.
Why is she
in
stuttering?
makeup.
You could have just said yes.
I don't know.
I don't have that expertise.
Kimberly,
but there is
yes or no?
Of course,
are you a woman?
Oh, yes. And I've reproduced, and
I have not seen the biological parts that she says she has.
I have a vajayjay, and my uterus stopped working a long time ago. Hence the hot flashers, lady. I know that you.
My ears are warm too right now.
Are they?
It's warm in here.
I think we all know what a woman is. The fact that she would not. I mean, this is what we're getting to the Supreme Court, and it is unlikely that she will not. Be granted access to the Supreme Court. She's going to get in.
She's getting nominated.
She's going to get in.
She's going to get the nomination. She is going to be the next
lifetime
United
appointee.
States Supreme Court justice.
And can't tell us what a woman is.
That is correct.
That's awesome. That's great.
That is correct.
America's doing well.
I think it was a discussion over the Virginia Military Institute male-only admission policy, and Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg had written her decision on that, and I think that's what the senator was asking Ketanji Brown Jackson about, and she said, "Well, I don't know. I have to go back and read the whatever because I don't know what context we're talking about here."
Okay.
So she can't identify what a woman or a man is unless she's got the actual legal papers in front of her. We're not smart enough to do that, even though we're Harvard educated. I mean, listen, I went to Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville, Missouri. And I can say that I came out there with a bachelor's degree and I knew what a woman was.
It's a good thing.
Yay me.
It's a good thing then that Samara Brook here in New York State is proposing this comprehensive sex education to begin in kindergarten, because what's her name?
Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Do we need sex education in kindergarten?
Well, apparently Ketanji needed it because she made it all the way to the Supreme Court nominee, and she
Has
doesn't
no
know.
idea what a woman
So
is.
I guess I have to go back and rethink, my support or opposition to comprehensive sex education in kindergarten, because I certainly want.
I don't think kids need to
I
know that.
certainly
Do they?
want my daughter, if she's ever nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States of America,
Yeah.
to be able to answer that question
Yeah.
when it's posed to her.
You're never living that down at the next, family gathering, are you?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe someone should have gotten out a book, one of those health books, and they've drawn the little picture of the uterus.
The ones that my dad threw onto my bed when I was 12 and said,
Okay.
read these.
I don't want to. Did he throw Playboys on your bed? I don't.
No, they were books from the library.
Someone says the human race is doomed.
I treated
Yeah.
them like they were Playboy.
By saying she isn't a biologist, did she in fact confirm that being a woman is biology?
Yeah,
That
you
was
asked
my
that.
question.
That's
Yeah.
a great point.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately where, if Marsha Blackburn had not just kind of pre-planned her question and follow-up statement, she should have had
Listened and had a comeback.
and had a good back and forth exchange.
That's
But
what
that's
people
all they
who
ever
are.
do.
They
They only
grandstand.
grandstand.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, if you're good, like if you're a good radio personality or TV personality and you hear something like that, if you're good enough,
Podcaster.
you come podcaster.
If you're attorney Dan Strollo cross-examining Thomas Putnam today
You,
at the Penfield hearing,
yes, we'll get to that.
then you have a great comeback.
Exactly. You have to listen in the moment
I
and
don't
listen
listen.
to what the person is saying. And,
Correct.
and don't continue to roll forward. But
Exactly.
but again, I think you only have a few minutes to ask a question and they have a few minutes to answer. And so,
And then you got to grandstand a little bit.
and then you have to grandstand, of course, just
I
a little bit.
reclaim my time.
So the name of the show is I Am Woman, because I think we all know what a woman is.
There's one in this room. Just one.
I know, Tom.
Well, I don't know.
Don't ask Tom that question. He won't be able to answer
I
either.
always say I have giant balls, but that doesn't make me a man. I'm just going to say this. I will say this. I do not have giant balls when it comes to this picture. I showed a picture yesterday. It's tornado season in the Midwest and in the South. And these people constantly amaze me that will stand outside. Maybe they're Harvard educated. I don't know.
Whoa.
They stand outside and take pictures like this.
That's awesome.
Or yesterday, if you missed yesterday's podcast, I had a video where they were standing in a Walmart parking lot in the middle of Texas, outside of Austin somewhere, filming that. Now, me personally, I see something like that coming. My ass is headed for shelter, right? I certainly don't stand out with that other picture. Let me show that. What did you ask before we started the show?
I want to
Tom?
know what the cash offer is right on the spot there. As the tornado's
Right now.
coming in.
Can we get
much?
that? Can we get
Can
that
we
sign?
get a purchase offer here
right now.
now?
Can we get attorney approval within 10 seconds? Because I'll make a cash offer on that house. Yeah, exactly.
$2. $2.
That's a monster tornado.
It really is. That's pretty.
And I think it did some pretty heavy duty damage in Louisiana.
Nature's fury right there.
It is, certainly. And the thing with the tornado is that you can't plan it for days. It's not like a hurricane. It just kind of happens. But I
You know
thought,
what nature looked like in Rochester this morning?
no. What
Awesome
did
to me.
nature look like in Rochester this morning? Do we have a great picture?
Is Chad in the weeds again?
Look at that.
Did you take that? No, is that the sunrise this morning?
My daughter took that from her school bus. Those are the panels on her school bus window. And then check out the next one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she sent those to me about an hour and a half ago.
That was this morning in Rochester.
That was this morning.
Rich
yeah.
Culver Plaza never looked so good.
Correct.
I will just say this. God had his crayons out this morning,
Right?
didn't he? That is a beautiful. Can we go back to the other one?
Look at
Pinkish.
That's phenomenal, isn't it?
That is gorgeous.
Is that a woman?
It's a woman that took the picture.
And she did a damn good job of taking the picture. All right. So before we get to the carjackings and before we get to the Brockport situation, where there is now a former Brockport police chief who is an adjunct professor at Brockport, this whole Brockport bringing in a cop killer to give a speech has really kind of riled everyone up. Before we get to that, I just want to hit a little bit about a couple of things that are going on locally, stories that we've talked about here on Kimberly's Revolution, stories that you, Chad, as an attorney, have been involved, in, because you've been representing the people involved. So let's start is it Penfield School District?
Yeah, Penfield
Okay.
Central School District. I'm representing a teacher, Kevin Quinn.
What kind of teacher?
He is a physical education teacher. He
Okay.
has been for almost 30 years.
Is he also a coach?
He's been a coach over the years.
Okay.
He's coached golf and other sports at the school.
Gotcha.
They get annual stipends to coach whatever sports
Exactly.
are
Yep.
needed.
Does he know what a woman is, Chad?
I believe he does. I haven't asked him that, though.
He's probably married to one.
So he's been rated either effective or highly effective for his entire career. But because he refused to take the so-called mandatory weekly COVID tests that had been handed down last September.
They're still doing that?
Yeah, they're still doing it. He was unlawfully placed on unpaid suspension back in October, which is as black and white illegal as it gets, because a tenured teacher cannot be placed on unpaid suspension unless they've either pled guilty to a felony or they're accused of a sex crime, which of course neither of those fit the bill. So
I can't believe that.
But without getting into too many details right now, I just wanted to share a phenomenally funny exchange that occurred today between I have co-counsel in the case, attorney Daniel Strollo, who also many of you know represented me in my criminal case. He helped me gain my acquittal in my criminal case in the town of Irondequoit.
Sure.
So the superintendent for Penfield Central School District was the primary witness for the school district today.
He was on the stand.
He was on the stand, and he's testifying about the mandates. And one of the arguments in our case was the school district themselves were not complying with the so-called mandate, because the mandate was effective immediately on September 2nd. Mr. Putnam acknowledged multiple times during the hearing today that they didn't do the first testing of any staff until the middle of October.
So they can kind of pick and choose which mandate they choose to follow and when.
Correct. They think it's okay for them to have discretion. It's the same case all the time, right?
Yeah.
The ones in power, they can exercise discretion.
Right, of course.
But the peons were not allowed to exercise discretion.
You have to do and say, as we tell you, or you're going to be suspended without pay.
Jumping how high, right? So, so he knew this was coming, right? So he thought he had artfully crafted a response. And the artful response that he kept coming up with when he was questioned over and over about it was, well, we were routinely meeting with the Department of Health. We were routinely meeting with the Department of Health. The Department of Health was advising us.
Okay.
So in other words, it was okay because the Department of Health was advising us. So Dan Strollo went along with it for a little bit and then said, well, who at the Department of Health was advising you? And finally it came out. Well, it was Dr. Mike Mendoza. Mike Mendoza this, Mike Mendoza that. So for the next couple minutes, it was Mike Mendoza this, Mike Mendoza that.
Sure.
So finally, Dan Strollo had enough of the Mike
There's
Mendoza.
Mike Mendoza.
There he is, yeah. And this is where we're headed with this. Because when finally Dan Strollo had enough of the Mike Mendoza talk, he said, is this the same Dr. Mike Mendoza that was constantly out maskless at places like JoJo's all last fall? And the attorney for the school district, objection, she's up in arms. The hearing officer is trying to gain control.
That's hilarious.
The people in the crowd are laughing out loud. The hearing officer's asking them to stop laughing. This isn't funny. It was phenomenal.
I think that's funny.
I was laughing.
How did the superintendent respond?
He didn't.
He didn't respond.
He didn't.
So was that you?
We moved on. He made his point.
I would have.
We made our point.
You made your point,
and we moved on.
Was that your "you can't handle the truth" moment?
Yeah. Wait. Hold on. Where is it?
No, that's good cracker.
Good cracker. Good cracker.
And just keep hitting buttons. You'll get it.
What the hell?
Stupid.
I don't know. I can't find it.
That's why she
It
doesn't.
says truth.
Oh, here it is.
You can't handle the truth.
There we go.
There it is. So that he'll find out. I mean, so now you're trying to get back pay, right? Is that what?
Well, he's entitled to, in our opinion, at a bare
$1
minimum,
million.
Yes.
$1 million. He's most certainly entitled to be paid for all the pay periods that he was not paid. There's no question about that. But the big picture, of course, is he wants his job back. So that's really where the decision's going to hinge. The hearing officer has basically given himself a month to render the decision.
Okay, so we'll know in a month.
So we're going to know in a month where that case stands.
So the other case that you handled for our friend Dave Callis, who was at the which school board? Webster School Board meeting, where he was yanked out of his chair by the Webster security guy after having been there for 20 minutes. There's an update in that case as well regarding the security guard.
Yeah. So
right?
tough guy security guard Ken Mancini, who 6 weeks ago was manhandling Dave Callis, dragging him out of the board meeting.
What's his name? Ken Mancini?
Ken Mancini, yeah. So he drags Dave out of a chair 6 weeks ago. And today, Ken Mancini had to sit in a chair and wait for the judge to call his name because he was being arraigned at 11 o'clock this morning in Webster Town Court.
Seriously?
Yeah. He was being arraigned on harassment and the second-degree charges. That's a violation. It's not a misdemeanor or a felony. However, it does carry up to 30 days in jail. So he can be punished. Or I'm sorry, 15 days in jail. And we had a conversation. Myself and Dave had a conversation with the assistant district attorney who's handling the case yesterday. And I can't get into all the specifics about that conversation, but I can say this, that the district attorney's office was planning on asking for an order of protection against Mr. Mancini.
Really?
In favor of Dave. And I don't know if it's been granted yet or not. And but if it is granted, that could create a huge problem for the Webster Central School District.
I would think that it would. Yeah.
Because when Dave Callis, who has the right to attend the next school board meeting, or to attend a athletic event,
event
that his son's participating in,
true,
the burden to follow that order of protection is on Mr. Mancini. And as far as we know, he's still employed with the school district in his role as a security guard.
Well, that does present a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, so like the poor husband or boyfriend who finds out that they have to get an apartment for 30 days because they were a bad boy and there's an order of protection against them.
Right.
That might be Mr. Mancini. You might have to find a place to stay on those nights when my client has the right to be at the school district.
Might want to think about that before you yank someone out of a chair over a stupid mask.
Yeah.
So
really? That's what we're going to do.
When Mr. Mancini stood up out of his chair at some point, did Dave come on behind him and rip the chair out so that he fell out his ass?
I would have loved to have seen that.
We
that
we promised the DA's office that we wouldn't do that to Mr. Mancini.
Pull his chair out from under him. Yeah, there's
excellent question though, just Tom.
There's a video if you've all seen it. Yeah, so great. So good updates, both good updates. We are glad to have those updates.
Can I go
of
now?
Course. Yeah. No, you can't because I know you.
Kidding. I'd love to be here.
I know we had some technical difficulties last week.
Yeah, I missed last week.
We had Mrs. Piangentini on the show last week from Long Island to talk about her husband being gunned down by an individual that is going to be appearing April 6th at a speaking engagement at SUNY Brockport, the college at Brockport here in Rochester, New York area. We had Mrs. is that how you pronounce her name? Piangentini. We had her on the show. We had technical difficulties. We had to stop the show. I know you talked about this too. The story still won't go away. And I think the thing that most people were so very angry about was the fact that this 2-time cop killer, and he tried to kill another officer in California. But that part of the story just goes by the wayside. The fact that he just didn't stop at killing cops in New York and continued the behavior out in California, that's just not even spoken of. This Anthony Bottom, who was released on parole.
Montequin.
Well, I don't call him his Muslim name. No, he's always going to be Anthony Bottom, the 2-time cop killer. Right. So people were riled up, one, because why in the world would SUNY Brockport invite such a person to come talk about his life experiences? Member of the Black Liberation Army back in the day, member of the Black Panther Party, 1971, when the killings occurred, the bank robberies, all the armed holdups, everything this guy has done. So they did, and it was going to be paid by a grant, which is equal to taxpayer money.
It's our money.
It's our money.
Yep.
And
pay to play speech.
Right. Exactly. So this guy has been living amongst us for about a year in Brighton. And apparently he has a good buddy that is a professor at Brockport. And
Oh.
that's who invited Mr. Anthony Bottom to
Do we-
come speak about his experiences.
Is that a known fact that they're acquaintances? Or?
Yes.
So it wasn't random.
It was not random.
Okay.
No, not
That's an interesting detail.
not at all. And so last week we found out, and I think after the much uproar, SUNY Brockport announced that it was not going to be using taxpayer money to pay the two-time cop killer Anthony Bottom for his speaking engagement.
Well, not on the record anymore. They're not.
Well, that's what I said. What
you
way
know
are
he's
they
still
they're,
getting paid.
they're
yeah.
going to end around this? How are
Of
they
course
going to
they
end
are.
around it? And,
Yeah.
and of course he is going to get paid.
Yeah. The
And-
check will show up in his mailbox.
And we know why he's getting paid, because now
Political agenda.
a private donor
Oh, of course.
is donating the
Is
money
it Lovely Warren?
to the speaking the speaking fee is being taken care of by a private donor.
Of course it is.
And apparently the private donor really thinks that a two-time cop killer has something worthy to say.
It's probably one of those Rochester Housing Authority guys.
They're stealing money
They
from
send
the
them their
people that they're
commissary
trying to, right?
They send them their commissary money.
Exactly.
Who are those guys that are in jail? The former city councilman, McFadden.
Oh, McFadden and Moses.
And Moses.
And Moses,
George
yeah.
Moses.
George Moses,
Yeah.
who
So
stole the money from
McFadden and
from
Moses are
Yep.
sending Bottom their commissary money to pay for the speech.
So
That's my theory.
we found out, and by the way, Anthony Bottom in 1971 gunned down New York City patrolman Waverly Jones and Joseph Piagentini, then escaped from New York.
And one of them was a black male.
One of
right?
them was a black, but I think the
police
quote
officer.
was,
A pig is a pig.
"A pig is a pig, no matter his color." That was the exact quote from one Mr. Anthony Bottom. This is the guy that we're having speaking to our kids, who says a pig is a pig, no matter what their color. So he's speaking April 6th.
He's reformed now.
The college at Brockport says, and the president released a statement, "We believe in free speech." And so he's still getting paid for the speaking engagement. And the former Brockport police chief, Daniel Valenti, who retired a couple of years ago, was an adjunct professor at the college at Brockport.
Well, it is a criminal justice college, right?
It is a criminal justice. In fact, the former police chief at Brockport, Mr. Valenti, has been teaching at Brockport for 22 years. And he said,
I'm out.
"That's the last straw. I will not continue to teach at Brockport under these certain kind of circumstances."
Well, that's a nice message, but that's not going to change.
So he
anything.
donated his last paycheck to Bottom and he left.
Yeah.
right? No, of course not.
I'm just kidding.
But so here we are. So here we are with a guy that is still going to get paid to come speak about his experiences gunning down cops in a setup, because it was a setup 911 call in an area of Harlem. Guy goes out to California and continues the carnage, right?
Sure.
He is robbing banks at gunpoint. He is robbing stores at gunpoint.
Do we know how old he was at the time? Objection, irrelevant.
I think he was in his 20s, and the cops were young too. So
yeah,
he,
Piagentini was 25, I think his wife said last week.
yeah,
When you guys- when you interviewed her.
I think that's about how old. I think he
Two
was
young
like
children.
21, 22, something like that. So he's out in California. He's robbing banks. He's robbing stores, armed holdups. As much money as you can for the Black Liberation Army. That's what do they always give the
Fist up.
fist up, right? So the cops arrive on one of the scenes before they're able to leave, and he starts shooting and almost kills a California police sergeant. So he was under arrest in California and then sent back to New York to do the time for the murders of the two New York patrol officers.
The thing that bothers me the most is, I mean, look, the story itself, the murder itself is obviously, it makes you sick to your stomach, right?
Mhm.
To think about the fact that, here's two young police officers. I don't know much about the other police officer because I've only heard this story, obviously, this side of the story from Piagentini's wife, but it's it's gross, it's heart-wrenching, it's sick to think that, you know, a 25-year-old cop who had his whole life ahead of him,
Yeah.
a young wife, 2 young children and all that. But you know, here we are now, right? 50 some years later. And
Right.
to me, the question becomes, who are the people that are inviting him to speak on campus at Brockport, and why? What is their goal? What is their motive? What is their agenda? Right? I mean, what are they
why
looking to accomplish here with this guy?
Why describe him as a political prisoner?
Exactly.
A political prisoner.
Yeah. What's their basis for that?
If no one knew or said anything about this guy's background, everyone would think that he was jailed wrongly for 50 years.
He's Nelson Mandela.
That all of a sudden
Yeah,
they
good
just
point.
threw him in prison for no good reason. He's a political, prisoner. He didn't agree with the agenda at the time. What was 1971? Everyone was, anti-Nixon. The Vietnam War was going on.
When the FBI called me on January 8th, they were looking to make me a political prisoner.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I just traveled down to DC, observed what
Yes.
had happened, and came back without, breaking any windows. But, there's no question that he's not a political prisoner, right? I mean, that's obvious at this point.
But
he's not.
So you have to understand that the same person who wrote that little blurb
And who is this person?
about Anthony Bottom's background for Brockport is the same person that brought him in to speak to your 18 and 19-year-old college student.
Do we know who that is by any chance?
I do not know who that is.
Well, let's face it. If he wrote the thing was said, come see 2-time cop killer, I don't think anybody would show up to that, right?
So we're going to lie.
We're going with advertising.
We're going
Marketing.
to
It's called
lie.
marketing.
He's a political prisoner.
Well, yeah, they did, right?
Right.
I know that in some respect
They're
it's just
directly lying.
a rhetorical question, but that's in fact what they did. Was lie.
Brockport, and I don't know if it was the adjunct professor or the professor at Brockport, not the adjunct professor. That was the Brockport police chief, former. But I don't know if this professor wrote the lie about being a political prisoner, but they certainly weren't forthcoming.
Bottom probably wrote it for him. A lot of times when you bring a speaker in to do something,
they write their own bio.
Yeah, provide me your bio. Provide me how you want to be introduced, right?
It's my understanding that this professor,
Not excusing
and
it.
Anthony Bottom have some kind. I mean, they're friends.
They're bros,
right? Yes, they are. They are friends. They speak often. That is my understanding.
Yeah.
So so after the former Brockport police, who retired a couple of years ago, said, "I'm done with Brockport. I'm no longer going to teach at SUNY Brockport. After 22 years, this is ridiculous." Some legislators in Albany got together and had this to say. It's kind of short, but here it is.
Brockport was under no obligation to extend the invitation.
Of course not.
And the duplicitous way that they did it, by advertising him as a political prisoner, making no mention of what it was that put him in prison, is even more disgraceful.
They were trying to slide it in. They were really hoping at Brockport no one would notice. There he is. That no one would notice that this guy was coming in to tell his lies and his misinformation about his incarceration to a bunch of kids who didn't know any better and didn't know his background.
See, I'm not sure
He
about
wanted
that.
to kind of, I don't know, it's like a form of brainwashing, right? Yeah, forget about the fact that I killed 2 cops. I was a Black Panther Party member and I was wrongly imprisoned. That's what he wants you to see. He doesn't want you to see what's over here.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that entirely, because part of me believes, and this is where, I don't know, where's that tinfoil hat? Is it still in here? I might have to put my tinfoil hat on. But
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
Part of me believes that Brockport knew exactly what they were doing. This professor who invited him knew exactly what he or she was doing. They know that this type of thing in the modern climate, this modern political climate we're in, where social media and so on and so forth, they knew this was going to get out. They knew this was going to be a story. This was going to be
clickbait.
Yeah, they knew that this was going to be more divisiveness in the community, because that's what ultimately this creates. It creates more divisiveness over race predominantly.
Right.
So, both of those things could be true, but I think there's a component to it where Brockport has no problem. They know what their agenda is.
Mhm.
And back to Valenti real quick. And, I really don't know anything about Valenti, so I don't want to, I don't want to allude to anything that might be completely, off the beaten path, but Valenti shouldn't quit over this.
Right.
If we actually need people like him, and again, I don't know anything about him, right? I'm going to make some assumptions here, but
Mhm.
Valenti needs to be in that school because he might be the only one left that
That
can teach our kids the right
The
path.
right thing.
So he steps away and quits, and there's probably way more to it, right? If Valenti feels so strongly about this situation that he's going to resign,
Mhm.
then certainly Valenti has had run-ins with the administration before, I imagine.
I am sure he has.
I'm sure that
I'm
the
sure he has.
administration has probably done things to squeeze Valenti many times because our higher education institutions are nothing but, liberal bastions of shit. So,
Well, there's breaking news as we're talking about this right now, and thanks to
Liberal
Um,
bastions of shit.
I like that, liberal bastions of shit. That should be one of the names for our show. Let's
Thought it
go.
was.
Let's go. Brandon and Barb Ann say SUNY Brockport just made this virtual. I guess
Of course they did.
they were concerned about the safety of the event on April 6th, and now they're going to make the event virtual.
so
With-
nobody, what does that accomplish?
With this two-time cop killer, Anthony Bottoms,
People won't be there to heckle.
maybe we
that
can do it
people
from
won't
here.
be there to shout at him.
Can we do it on Zoom here?
People won't be there to call him out.
Yeah.
People won't be there to physically let them know that he's not wanted in this community, nor are his thoughts or his concerns. They're not valid to us.
Are they going to refund all the ticket money for people that probably do you have to pay to go to this?
I
Or it's
don't-
just for
I don't-
students only.
I don't know. What I do know is that initially he was getting paid by a grant, but
Allegedly
they
1,200 or 1,300.
was it $1,300 for the
That's what I
speaking
heard.
engagement?
I heard 1,300. Yeah.
I don't know. We're all over the place on the monitor over here. I don't know why.
No,
But-
they're not seeing that, Kimberly.
Oh, they're not seeing
No.
that. I'm seeing that, but yeah.
Yeah,
So the event has been moved to a
Just close your eyes.
virtual event. I didn't know that.
I didn't know.
Here's what Brockport needs to do: cancel the event. That's the right thing to do. I don't think our college age children need to hear any thoughts, but because this guy has no remorse. He's not sorry for what he did, clearly, because he's still representing himself as a political prisoner. He believes it in his head. If you tell yourself the lie for long enough that me killing those two police officers who were just arriving on scene to help someone that they thought was in danger, if you continually tell yourself, "Oh, I didn't kill him because of that. I killed him because of the agenda at the time, the political atmosphere at the time. Well, I'm a political prisoner. I had something today to say and they locked me away." He's not remorseful. He just believes his lie. That's all this is.
Here's my take. I think that he should speak. They should keep his speech on. And then I think Valenti should have stayed. And Valenti should have called the wife that we had on the show last week, Piagentini's wife, and he should have contacted a surviving heir of the other officer who was murdered and invited them
Waverly Jones.
and invited them to come speak at the exact same time. I'm sure there's more than one auditorium
Right.
at SUNY Brockport, because in my opinion, you do have to have free speech, right?
Yes.
This idea of free speech and free thought. You do have to have it. And the public can't necessarily be the arbiter of allowing somebody to speak. We can be the arbiter of not hearing it,
Right.
not
you don't
listening
have
to it.
You don't have to go, right? That's what they say.
Speaking out against it. And the way to speak out against it is bring in the other narrative and let people hear the other narrative, right? And decide which narrative they'd rather hear and listen to and follow, right? And then you have two stories out there,
Right.
and let the people decide,
Right.
because
Well-
I think we know where it's going to land at that point, right? I think
Of course.
the rational minds, the reasonable rational minds in America in this region,
Mhm.
they're going to land on the side of the 2 police officers who were murdered in cold blood. But here's the other thing that would happen too. The other thing that would happen is it would flush out whether or not what I said earlier is true. And that is, if these people at the people at the college who invited him, what's their agenda? What's their motive? What's going on in their minds?
Their motive is that this is what the establishment does.
Mhm.
It jails poor Black men
Sure.
because their political views are different from everyone else. That's the agenda.
Well, and so
That's what I think.
Striker 1B is, he asks the question. He's reading my mind, and that is, he says, Chad, do you honestly think Brockport would allow that? And that's my point. We would find out the answer, because that's the answer. Like I said earlier, that's
Right.
what I want to know. I don't give a shit what Bottom has to say, but I also don't give a shit if he says it. I can think he's a scumbag and a dirtbag and a cop killer and all that stuff.
Right.
And what he says to a bunch of students at Brockport isn't going to change my mind.
Right.
Maybe the students at Brockport will hear it and come to a conclusion that they otherwise wouldn't have come to, because they never knew of the story.
Right.
And they're going to come to the same conclusion
But
that you
they
and I are
can't-
coming to.
But they can't come to a rational conclusion if they don't know the true background of the guy.
Which is why we bring in
See,
the other side.
Yeah, I
and-
know what you're saying.
And let the college shut that other side down. And now we have,
But human nature is you always go where there's drama, right? It's human nature. Will more people go to see the widowed wife
Mhm.
of one of the officers and one of the other relatives of the other officer that he gunned down in cold blood? He put 22 bullets in
Yeah.
Officer Piagentini.
with his own gun.
After the man, yes, with his own service revolver, after the man begged for his life because of his wife and
kids.
his new baby,
It's sick.
his 2 kids.
Yeah.
And Waverly Jones was shot cowardly style in the back first, and then in the back of the head. So that's how Anthony Bottoms rolls. He shoots men in the back of the head, and then he shot just Joseph Piagentini 22 times. But if that information isn't out there, and even if you have the other side speaking at the same time, it's human nature to want to go to, I don't know, what I want to say is the more
I follow you.
right, the crazier story,
The more lightning rod
right
side of the story.
exactly.
And that's fine. Then either go or don't go. But then that's your choice, right?
Yeah.
As as the citizens who aren't the speaker, it's our choice at that point to
Mhm.
decide: do we want to go see him speak,
Mhm.
or do we not want to hear that story?
Right.
I mean, me personally, I don't want to go hear him speak, because I know what happened.
You know what he is.
I know what happened, and I don't want to hear it.
And
It
you
makes
don't-
me sick
right.
to my stomach. I have kids. It makes me sick to my stomach. But and to your other point, that doesn't. I don't know if I necessarily would want to go hear the wife speak either,
Right.
because that would also make me sad.
So sad,
So I
right.
know the story, so I don't need to go hear either of
Right,
either of
exactly.
them speak.
I think
but I
someone-
do know that Brockport would shut her down. Probably they wouldn't want it because it's supporting the police, and that's, as we know, offensive.
Yeah.
Why we always hear that
Well-
narrative? Well, we don't want to offend people, because some kids, would
Are
see
scared. They
they're
get
afraid
triggered.
of the police. They
They're
get triggered.
triggered, right.
You know, we would hear that narrative, but I want to hear them expose themselves again and again and again. These dangerous left-wing radicals that are running these colleges.
Mhm.
I want to hear them expose themselves again. We need somebody at Brockport who can invite a speaker to invite a police officer to speak,
Yeah.
or invite Miss Piagentini to speak. We need that.
I agree. Someone says, and I mean, you can't woulda, coulda, shoulda this, but someone says he shouldn't have been out of jail, out of prison to begin with. He should have served.
Correct.
You shot in cold blood,
100%.
life sentences, but this parole board in the last 12 to 14,
Under Cuomo.
22 months under Cuomo has had a little bit of a rotation, a little bit of a change with the parole board. And so a 2-time cop killer gets out, and now he's on, he's on the speaking tour. He's going around and he's on the circuit, and he's getting paid.
Yeah.
He's getting paid and he's enjoying his life. Whereas the 2 police officers
Are dead.
never got a chance
And their
to
families are suffering.
enjoy.
And that's how I
their
explained
life.
it on my show last week, was that we're all angry and rightfully so. We're all up in arms, and rightfully so. But I do think that we are predominantly misdirecting our anger. And I think predominantly our anger should be directed at the fact that he's out of jail, not that he's speaking. Because
But the fact that he's out of jail.
That he's out of jail.
Yeah.
Because now he is out. Right or wrong, clearly wrong, he's out.
He's out.
And you
Can't
know,
do anything about it. Like I said, you can't
Yeah.
woulda, coulda, shoulda now because it's done.
There's a local radio host in town. Maybe you've heard of him, but he's been talking a lot about this. And, one of the things that he was focusing on was the fact that he's using a public campus. It should be private. Well, that doesn't work. That you can't take that to its logical conclusion because RTS is public.
Right.
Can he never take the bus again?
Right. Exactly.
A park, which is one of the places that this
It's a
local
public
radio
park, yeah.
host wants him to go speak. That's a public place, so
Yeah.
he can't speak there either. Roads are private. He can't drive his own car on 104 to get out to Brockport because 104 is public property. So he's out of jail. I was talking to my wife about it. My wife made a great point. She said the jail that he was in was paid for by the taxpayers.
Of course.
His attorneys, his public defenders that he had were public tax dollars. The man has probably spent his whole life using our public tax dollars. He's going to spend the rest of his life using our public tax dollars.
Yes.
So I'm angry that he's out of jail. And that's kind of where I'm going to,
Because
focus it.
of what has happened to this, new direction of the parole board. And when you have a woman who's sitting on the parole board, whose own husband,
A woman?
Sure.
How do we know how do we
sure?
does she know
is
she's a woman?
I think I don't know if she knows she's a woman, but she is indeed a woman. And
We always come back.
her husband is a convicted murderer.
Of course.
You have a wife of a convicted murderer.
What was Mayor Lovely Warren's husband?
Oh, yeah, well,
I mean,
yeah.
this is where we're at in the Democrat liberal New York state.
This is where we are. And it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better anywhere you go. I want to bring up, I kind of want to pivot just a second because we're about out of time. But I want to bring up, this is the tweet that I saw this morning.
Is it for me?
So you know how you get your little,
It's all about Chad.
you get your
Chat,
little
chat,
updates
chat.
on your phone and the news stories, the 13 Wham, the Fox News or whatever. And the first thing I saw this morning was last night,
From Chad.
there were 2 carjackings last night.
That's
One,
it?
Just two? Yeah.
one at
It's a
7,
light night.
one at 7, and one at 11. But they just weren't carjackings. They shot the people first, these teenagers. They shot the people first, and then they dragged them out of the car and they stole the car. 2 people taken to RGH last night with gunshot wounds after their car had been carjacked. I think one
Wow.
was over off Webster Avenue
That's
off of
horrific.
East Main Street. It's not a great area.
No.
And we talked yesterday, Tom, about how many carjackings over the weekend? 6.
Mhm.
All perpetrators 14, 15 years old.
Appearance tickets.
Appearance tickets. One of the carjackers had been arrested 3 times in the last 20 days for attempted carjackings. I think that was that the tweet I had yesterday. Do you have? So this was the tweet.
Give me 1 second.
This was the tweet last night. Police have arrested a 14-year-old for stealing an Uber on East Main Street. One of the carjackings last night was right around the corner from East Main Street. This was the tweet that I had from yesterday. Officers took a 16-year-old into custody. He was arrested twice over a 3-day period for 2 separate carjackings.
But I'm not allowed to go to Dick's right now and buy a handgun. So that if I'm driving through one of those neighborhoods, I
Right.
can defend myself.
Right,
I'm not allowed to do that.
right.
Got it.
Here's what I'm thinking.
And they probably had permits for the guns they had, right? They followed the law, I'm sure.
Well, the 2 last night have not been arrested. The 2 carjacking victims who were also shot, because that's where we are now. The carjacking isn't enough. They're coming up to your car with a gun and they're shooting you if you don't get out.
Kimberly, boys are just being boys.
Who are these kids?
Well, they're not all boys.
That's where I was going with
What-
that.
They're girls.
Are you sure they're girls?
Absolutely. I do believe over the weekend there was a girl involved in one of those 5 or 6 carjackings.
My question is, did they swim across the Rio Grande or did they climb over the wall when they
Really?
came here illegally?
That's what you're going with?
That's what I want to know.
'Cause
I
are
don't
you
think-
speaking
I
of
don't
their
think-
nationality?
I don't think the youth that came out of the Rochester Central, Oh wait, never mind.
Okay.
Never mind. I think
Where are you
I
going
think
with that?
maybe they could be.
So here's
Okay.
what we have going on in Rochester every night.
Rochester, New York, folks.
There's some kind of a carjacking, Rochester, New York.
This East Main Street. By where? Over by the Eastman Theater?
But get down from there, East Main Street, as you turn like on Goodman, and then you veer off on
Spent
Webster.
the last 3 mornings driving up and through there, going back and forth to my hearings.
I'd be very careful if I were you, because if you're in that area over there,
Goodman's not anywhere near East Main Street. Is it?
It isn't.
Yeah, you turn off
Sure it
East
is.
Main
That's-
Street onto Goodman.
Oh, that's way
Correct.
down there. Okay.
yeah, and then that's
Down by old Charlie Brown's.
and the Webster Drive or road or whatever veers off one way.
Yeah, it's the other side of the
And then
railroad
Bay
tracks,
Street-
though.
Webster and Bay veer off each other.
Yeah, and then Bay Street is right down there. I know exactly what I'm talking. I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
I know this. But anyway, so
By
these
the
are
Village Gate area there.
these are not
No.
even close to the village gate. So so anyway, this is what's happening. Only they shot
Right.
2 people last night. So let's go to Louisiana. Louisiana, because you're seeing all these big Democrat
Mardi Gras.
strongholds. New Orleans, Monday afternoon, 1:30 in the afternoon on a New Orleans city street. I think it's North Scott and Bienville, where these individuals had kind of stalked this woman. She was pulled over on the side of a street and she was talking on the phone. Woman is 73 years old. This is the lady. This is the lady. And it was a beautiful day. She was on the side of the road. These individuals, girls, all of them, 13 and 14 years old, walk over to her car and carjack her, the 73-year-old woman.
Well, they were underprivileged, right?
I don't know. They shoved her out of her vehicle. And as they jumped into the car and one of them is shoving her out of the vehicle, this 71-year-old woman gets her arm twisted up in the seatbelt because she had just pulled over to make a phone call like we're supposed to do, because you don't want to talk on your phone. And she's 73. So she's probably not really adept at driving and texting and whatever she was doing. So they push her out. She's still wearing her seatbelt. They take off down the road. They're pushing her out. Her arm gets tangled up in the seatbelt. They continue to go faster. She's screaming for her life. And at one point, they speed up and her arm comes off. Her arm is ripped off by the seatbelt in a carjacking by 13 and 14-year-old girls in New Orleans at 1:30 in the afternoon on a beautiful Monday.
It's like Mr. Potato Head.
In Louisiana. Her name's Linda Fricky. She's a 73-year-old mother and grandmother of 7. Here is this sweet lady pulled over on the side of the road, and these waste of lives, and that's really what they are, these waste of lives, carjack her because they want her vehicle to go on a joyride. In an attempt to carjack her, and God forbid you slow down and let her get out.
They'll be speaking at Brockport.
She
in
just
30
said,
years.
you know what? Please let me go. Just slow down and let me go. Just let me get. Nope. They sped up and her arm was ripped off in the process and her body went flying. She died of obviously traumatic injuries to her body. And there were people around that were trying to stop the girls in the car and they couldn't catch up with the car. It's a horrific scene.
Yeah.
And is that when we hear 2 people got shot in Rochester after they were carjacked? There you go. Okay.
I know.
All right.
Happens every night.
Yeah. Here's what's going to happen. And I told Tom this yesterday. What in your thought, what's going to happen? In my mind, here's where my mind goes.
Family court.
Someone's going to shoot one of those kids. Someone is going to be packing that they're carjacking on one of these city streets.
I hope so.
Right? But you don't understand. The city will burn if that happens. Why'd you have to shoot him? You didn't have to shoot him.
Let the city burn at that point, if that's what it takes. Because
I'm telling you, someone attempts to carjack someone in the next couple of days, and that individual has a gun on them in their car, and they shoot one of those 14 or 15-year-old, or even the 16-year-old that we saw the tweet that had been picked up, 2 times in 3 days, they shoot that person and all hell is going to break loose.
You know what? I just had an idea. I don't want to say a great idea because it's my idea. I let you say it's a great idea. I just had a great idea. Do you need a permit for a German Shepherd in your backseat?
No.
Okay. That's a great idea.
Take a German Shepherd in the back. They'll shoot the dog.
What's that?
They'll shoot the dog.
That's true. That was a lousy idea.
It's a horrible idea.
Then freaking Pete will come after me.
I'd rather a person get shot than a dog. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's the way I roll. I'll be honest. I mean, this is a forum to be honest, right? I would rather a person get shot than a dog.
If somebody shoots one of these carjackers in the face,
Yeah, which
I don't know why that hasn't happened.
They are
yet.
deserving of.
Yeah. Then that's when it will end, because the other carjackers will take notice. They just will, right?
Will they care?
About getting shot in the face? I think they will. Yeah. All guns, lives matter.
Really?
So I think that's what it's going to take. But,
Okay.
But in the cities, right? In states like Illinois,
Mhm.
in New York, in California, I'm not sure about Louisiana, but in those big hitter states,
Mhm.
the gun laws in the cities are even more restrictive
Yeah, of course.
than the gun laws statewide,
Right.
right? I mean, it was the District of Columbia that tried to eliminate firearms altogether. You couldn't have a firearm at all, even with a permit. So, and then what happens when good guys are unarmed and
Right.
bad guys are armed because bad guys don't follow the law? I mean, it sounds such a
Right.
tired old cliche, but it's the truth. It's reality. Bad guys will always carry the guns, just like what happened in Prohibition.
Right.
So
right.
if good guys have guns, and enough of them do, but the good guys can't get their hands on guns because of the overbearing regulations, then it's free reign for the carjackers.
Yeah.
They don't feel threatened approaching any one car.
Not at all.
They don't feel threatened.
Not at all. It could be the middle of the day, like it was here in New Orleans for this. I mean, can you imagine being a witness to this event and seeing a woman's arm go flying off because it was wrapped up in the seatbelt of the car that was getting jacked and she couldn't get out of it, and they were pushing her out at going 40 miles an hour down this side street. If you can even imagine how horrific that must have been, right?
So if I have a handgun illegally in my car because I don't have a permit and somebody tries to carjack me,
You're going to jail
with a gun.
You're going
and
to
I
jail.
shoot them.
You're going to jail.
I am going to get charged with felony possession of a weapon
You are going to jail.
and murder potentially.
That's correct.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
That's our justice system.
Which
Yay!
Which
Yes.
put all the rhetoric aside.
Yeah.
That can be reality on any Rochester street tonight, and that's why the Second Amendment doesn't exist in the United States anymore. It just doesn't.
Well, it exists some places. It doesn't exist here.
No, you're
because
correct.
yes, if
Good
you have an
point.
illegal weapon and you shoot your carjacker and you kill your carjacker,
you're going to prison.
You will be arrested.
Yep.
And you will go to jail.
Yep, because you do not have the right to defend yourself.
If a grand jury, unless a grand jury has half a brain, and the grand jury could always vote. What do they call that?
No bill.
No bill.
Yeah, they could no bill it, but if they follow the law, they won't be no billing it. If they follow the law, they have to indict. They just do.
Yeah.
It's black and white. Criminal possession of a weapon, it's black and white. It's possession of a firearm that's unlicensed without a permit.
Well,
End of story.
sometimes the law isn't always right.
No, you're right. It's not. That's for
Right?
sure. Yeah.
So sometimes you have to make decisions with your heart instead of your head. Did I
Yeah.
just say that?
What?
Oh my God. I don't even know where that came from. Of course, you have to have a heart. Anything else?
I wasn't going to say it.
Anything else for today for Kimberly's Revolution?
Summer's coming up, people.
It is.
And yesterday I was driving down St. Paul and I got passed by a dirt bike and an ATV that ran a red light. So keep your heads on a swivel because
And you didn't get carjacked?
because the dirt bikes and the ATVs are coming out on
Oh,
nice days.
God, that's
So
crazy.
we're going to be back to that this summer.
That is crazy. We don't want that at all. What?
Buy more ammo.
Of course, as always. All right, that's going to do it for Kimberly's.
Kimberly, am I a woman?
I feel like a woman. Bum, 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 bum. No. Kimberly's
Canceled.
Revolution. that is going to be us for tonight. It is, of course, the We the People Podcast Network.com. Go buy a t-shirt. We'll see you next Tuesday for Tuesday's edition of Kimberly's Revolution. And as always,
Support our sponsors. God bless. Be kind to others.